from a clinical standpoint, what's great is it's simple, and I think, like Russ said, there's such a great progression in orthopedic surgery to do these, scopes and meniscus repairs and different types of cartilage repairs and tissue work, and then maybe put someone in a non-weight bearing state or protected state for 4 to 6 weeks to allow tissue to heal, and then oftentimes they're just kind of, we hear it all the time, like the doc says, don't do PT for 4 weeks or 6 weeks, just wait for it to kind of heal and sit. And then I think what happens is we see that the tissue healing phase might be 12 to 14, 16 weeks probably, so maybe 3 to 4 months. But the rehab process ends up being 6 to 9 months because we're trying to battle this atrophy that came on to the process because of so much downtime. What we've seen with this has been that if we can apply it early during that time frame when the tissue is healing, we can work someone with, like you said, with no load or 20% of their max, which is very, very mild, just to have them move a little bit. And this idea of occlusion is going to help them at least reduce atrophy, if not even give us a little bit of hypertrophy during that time period. So when, like Russ's experience, when we took the training wheels off and allowed them to walk again, they're ready to go, and there's a lot more. The tissue's ready to go. The tissue's already had some adaptation, and you're not starting from a negative position. And I think that's something that we strive for, and we see a tremendous impact on our common stuff, our ACLs, meniscus repairs. We use it on some of even our total knees. It's usually the folks that are probably on a little younger side and are tolerant to it, because like Johnny will tell you, this is not the most comfortable treatment you've ever had in your life. It's a pretty strong constriction. It's going to grab you and it's going to squeeze pretty hard. But if we're looking at from an evidence-based standpoint, evidence-based practice and such, there's probably nothing out there that has more evidence than this that we actually do clinically. It fits right in there with exercise, eating well, and this is a form of exercise that actually just amplifies the benefits of exercise in so many ways.
Yeah, and I think, and getting back to your point about we're able to use this in those early phases of rehab, that's where BFR really shines. And one of the problems, I didn't have to deal with this in the military, but you guys deal with it. People burn their PT insurance visits up in those early phases, and then you're just watching the muscle waste away. Typically. Low load exercise doesn't drive muscle protein synthesis. It doesn't hold off catabolism, so they're atrophying, and you're working on range and all this other. And then it's like, okay, now we need the muscle to be there. And the doc's like, okay, cool, it's 12 weeks, you're ready to run. And it's like, man, I need like 4 more months to restore what happened from this anabolic resistance. So yeah, to be able to maintain that, and then once they get off that protective phase, be like, cool, now we're ready to go. If you're doing it right, it's just, I think it's been such a win. And then this has this double kind of thing going for it right now. There's a lot of evidence for it. I mean, if you Google Scholar blood flow restriction, you get papers almost daily now, but there's a science-based side to it as well, because evidence is hard. I do lots of research, and it's a pain in the ass. And some studies, even some I've been involved with, they're like, I'm not so sure about. I'm a little embarrassed that one's out there. But when you can go back and say, man, look at all these like high-powered physiological labs around the world who are saying it drives mTORC1, it drives satellite cell content, it does all these physiological things, and they're just looking at it from mechanisms. That's huge for our profession, because then we can say, look, the science is just here. These guys aren't even therapists. They're just the ones who are trying to prove this science. And by the way, now here's the clinical trials that show if you apply it, you get here. That can be very powerful, I think, for us.
Yeah, I think it's something we got to take advantage of as a profession for sure. You made the point before when we've talked that, a good physical therapy study might have 20 to 30 people in it, and we consider that to be like a strong study in our field, which is kind of sad. In the physiology world, if you took that to a physiology group and said, hey, we had 30 people in the study, this is what we found, they'd be like, okay, well, is that just like the case example, or when do we start the study? Like, I want thousands of people in the study, and that's what you're seeing with a lot of this research is we're talking about large groups, like large applicable changes across the population.
Yeah, and large funding, which has been powerful, and a lot of that's been driven because the orthopedic surgeons have really embraced this in a big way. I had a talk last week with an orthopedic group, and they were kind of laughing, like, this is one of the first times orthopedic surgeons have been like kind of giddy about something in rehab, and so the majority of our trials are all orthopedic surgeon based, and they have a bigger share of the pot of money lots of times. And then what's really good with this, especially now that we're getting people to standardize it and we're able to say, okay, we're all kind of using this the same way. We know how much percentage of limb occlusion pressure you did. We kind of follow the same volume schemes. We have so many different trials going on that we're getting lots of systematic reviews and meta-analysis. So maybe it is an ACL trial that we're doing at Rush and we only enrolled 60, but we got one down at Methodist that's about to come out. They enrolled, I think, 40 something. We got Memorial Herman's that's coming out. Stanford's one's coming out. And so if you get all these trials and everyone's kind of using the same approach, just systematic review and meta-analysis, and that's basically the highest tier evidence that we can get. And so that's going to be huge. And then I'm pretty excited that we're seeing that.